I think we had a really great meeting, and we're very proud of the party. We like our leader. We like everybody really in the room. I don't like a few people, but that's okay. I think you know who they are. But I'll give you that information someday. But for the most part, we have a really well-unified party.
Well, that's not such a secret of who he doesn't like. Let's bring in our panel. Caroline Heldman is a Democratic strategist and professor of critical theory and social justice at Occidental College. Matt Klink, Republican strategist and owner and president of Klink Campaigns Incorporated. Welcome, both of you. So we've got some breaking news when it comes to politics. So earlier today, we just showed Bill Cassidy. Bill Cassidy is not going to be in the Senate anymore because Donald Trump endorsed his primary opponent. So he's not a huge fan of President Trump at this point, and he has no reason to kiss the ring. So he gets up and confronts him on the Iran war. In the middle, there's this shouting match. He's told to sit down. Well, then he's invited. Well, let's show you what he said after the shouting match, first off.
I felt like I was trying to get answers for the American people. And I'm not going to be bullied when I'm trying to get answers for the American people. And so it escalated from there. At some point, it de-escalated.
So he's trying to get answers. He's standing up for the American people. Then he's invited to the White House, where he meets with J.D. Vance and Steve Witkoff, who is President Trump's negotiator on basically every single conflict around the world, and changes his vote on the Iran Powers Act. We've got a full screen that we can show. This was what he put out on X. I want to thank the Vice President and Special Envoy Witkoff for thorough briefing this afternoon on Iran. I appreciate the quick invitation to the White House to address many of my concerns. So he changed his vote. Rand Paul, senator from Kentucky, agreed to vote present. So now, all of a sudden, instead of the Senate, Matt, saying to President Trump, you can't do what you want to do on Iran, all of a sudden, he can do whatever he wants. What happened?
Isn't politics great? I mean, look, this is how Washington, D.C. works. And Bill Cassidy may be running out the clock, so to speak, but he still has things he wants to accomplish, not only for the state of Louisiana, but also, as he said, for the American people. So clearly he went to the White House. Whether he was summoned or went of his own volition, we'll leave that up to the viewer's discretion. But what did he get? We don't know, but he changed his vote, and the vote was more symbolic than anything. They can't enforce Donald Trump to do anything, but he changed his vote, and it still shows Donald Trump has that power, but Cassidy clearly got something.
There was a lot of folks, especially on the left, that were celebrating Bill Cassidy earlier today, standing up to President Trump, the sane Republican. Tonight, your thoughts?
Well, tonight, the question is what Bill Cassidy got. I would agree with Matt. He got something from this meeting, but what I'm really distressed about is the fact that Donald Trump is harming his own party. Maybe I shouldn't be so concerned about that because I'm not a Republican, but Matt, tell me, what is going on here? This housing bill was bipartisan. Elizabeth Warren, Senator Scott, support across the aisle because it would have created more housing by reducing the cost. Private equity couldn't buy single homes. It also, in the vein of Ezra Klein and all of this red tape, it would have cut through it. Donald Trump, this would have been a win for his party. It would have helped them in the midterms, and he decided he wasn't going to sign it. It'll probably pass anyway because it's probably veto-proof if the coalitions hold in the House and the Senate. But what the heck is going on with the Republican Party?
Yeah, because there's this moment where they literally built the stage for him. Everything was set. They had announced from his own White House that he was going to be there. And then he decides at the last minute, I'm not going to do it. You think that's smart politics?
No, it's terrible politics. But he can still sign it. He hasn't vetoed it yet. He can sit on it for a while. And he says he wants the SAVE Act to pass. And, the SAVE Act by name isn't particularly popular. But the individual components in the SAVE Act are very popular. He's upset at John Thune because John Thune won't push it through. And in part because John Thune wants to respect the filibuster. The Democrats have already said they're going to do away with the filibuster to pass
not all of them.
The overwhelming majority of them have. Unlike the Republican Party, I don't think that they should do it. And look, they can do that. They can do a
so
talking
you think
filibuster.
Republicans should nuke the filibuster?
No, not at all.
No.
I'm a traditionalist. I like that's the saucer that cools the tea is the Senate.
And for people that don't, filibuster is you got to get 60 votes to pass major legislation instead of 50, which means you got to incorporate the minority party into the discussion most of the time and let a party get 60 votes, which doesn't happen very often. This idea of the Save America Act, Do you think that's good legislation? Do you think that's, and is that the hill to die on, which is President Trump's hill to die on?
Well, I think in his mind, he thinks it's going to win elections for Republicans. But not only is it premised on the false claim that there's massive voter fraud, we know from one study from the Heritage Foundation, which is a right-leaning organization, a study from 2024, 100 million votes, 30 different elections. The voter fraud rate was 0.0000003%. It's not a problem. So it doesn't matter how much Trump says it is. I think his party doesn't have the votes. They're not whipping this as hard as they could be because there's no clear evidence that even if we were to restrict it, and it is a voter restriction bill, the most restrictive in American history. Even if he passes it, it is unclear whether or not it will harm his party more than it will harm the Democrats. So I think at the end of the day, he doesn't have the votes because it's bad legislation.
You think it's bad legislation?
I think that individual elements of the SAVE Act they make common sense. You should have to show a photo ID to vote. Everybody has them. You talk to people, it's not that difficult. Yet for some reason, it never seems to happen. So, I mean, look, the Republicans are pushing the SAVE Act. The Democrats pushed H.R. 1, which would have California-like voting practices nationwide. That would be a whole mess as well. So it's all about politics. Right now, that Thune is counting heads. He doesn't have the votes even in his own caucus to move it. And that's what upsets Donald Trump more than not having Democrats vote for it.
Basically, this idea that maybe Congress is a co-equal branch.
Heaven forbid.
I mean, honestly, right? He's not.
Yes.
I mean, Donald Trump, look at his whole life, is not used to dealing with that.
Correct.
Of somebody who can say
Biden
no.
Either.
Right.
The president, what do they call it, Caroline? The imperial executive.
Yeah.
I mean,
Imperial presidency.
yes.
Biden was
Well,
not an imperial presidency.
And Joe Biden came from the Senate. I mean, he knew how the Senate worked. He spent 35 years there. Yeah. He had to deal with Joe Manchin doing the same thing to him that Bill Cassidy did to him tonight. When you've got the leverage, you can use it and get some things, but that's got to be frustrating when you're used to being in charge.
Yeah, when you don't get your way and you throw a temper tantrum. Look, my children used to do that, and we used to send them to their room. You can't really do that to the president.
All right. Well, you guys are sticking around, which we appreciate. We're going to talk more about all this with Sam Liccardo, who's a congressman who was involved in all of this, in a few minutes. And in our next hour, we're going to talk to you about the future of the Democratic Party, which there's a lot of questions about that after the big win for Zoran Mondani. A lot of people talking about that today. So we'll get into that. We'll see you guys in a moment.